What's the deal with all these artists releasing bonus albums, deluxe editions, like little ticky-tacky add-ons? Why should we now just expect that this is going to happen? Hell, I just released my review of Brat by Charli XCX yesterday. I got a lot of good views, a lot of good comments. I got some bad comments from people who just watched the first 5 minutes and called me a hater. Hey, I love that album for an hour and 21 minutes. For 30 seconds at the beginning, I was using rhetorical devices. It's okay. But, so what do we do with this, What do we do with Brat and it's the same, but there's 3 more songs on it, so it's not. This new deluxe edition, can we even call it that? It's just the exact same album with 3 more songs. What do we do with these songs? Listen, I understand. I consider myself as an artist in addition to being an entertainer with this channel. Every once in a while, I'll throw on an addendum. As a matter of fact, did you know on my Charli XCX video, I added an addendum. One was about her underwear, which we'll get to in a second. And then the other point was about her making the transition from creator to consumer and back to from consumer to creator, back to consumer on the course of the album. I mean, there's still more things I wish I could add. Like I just realized my 2 most popular videos of the last week are both by British women. One is Charli XCX, the other is Beth Gibbons. Both very different meditations on what it is to be a woman at a different ages, the way one is perceived of in the public eye, and they both feature a song called Rewind. How weird is that? How cool is that? Now, her version of Rewind, Beth Gibbons, is sort of an environmentalist tract about how we can't go back, and I would argue that Charli XCX's is the same. But I can't do these things. I got my 10,000 views, my 10,000 clicks, and I'm not going to get that on this. I'm not going to get that on the addendum. The same way that Charli XCX is not going to get the same amount of passion or interest in these 3 new songs. But that's okay, because that's the point. That's the point of an addendum. That's the point of an appendix. The point is there is no point. These are just songs. And what I like about this whole trend is that when they're done well, and they're done well in this case, they draw your attention as to what makes the singular product what it is. Like, why weren't these songs on there? Now, it's not just because they don't fit on the vinyl or whatever. More streams, the better. That's how you make money these days. So if you have songs ready and you don't include them, and you are a good artist, and indeed, A.G. Cook and Charli XCX and everyone else involved in this project are great artists with big brain ideas, we have to understand that this gives us a roadmap, a way of understanding what was the point of this thing in the first place. By seeing what doesn't fit, we might understand better their vision of the entire thing that they released. It's not simply a question of not being good enough. It's about they do not fit. And listening to these 3 songs and why they don't work in the album will help us to better understand the album itself. Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor. I wasn't going to do another video. I got a whole thing tomorrow. I got my live stream with my 50 albums that influenced me over the past 20 years. It's going to be a big deal, a big celebration of 100,000 subscribers. But here I am, okay? So why not? Why aren't these 3 songs on there? Well, I think one song is not on there because it's a love song. And then the other 2 are just because they don't fit the tone. They're too goofy. They're too over the top. What the 3 of these songs together help me to understand is Brat, the real album, the actual album, not Brat and it's the same, but there's 3 more songs, so it's not. It sets a certain tone. And definitely the last 2 songs are just too goofy. So, the first one is Hello, Goodbye. This is the only one I think we might say is just not worthy to be on this album. It's just, the production is sort of interesting. It's kind of jittery synths and no drums for the most part. But it doesn't quite have the same, oomph or something to it. It's lacking. It would have been a skip if it were on there. Compared to my other least favorite song on the album, Apple. Apple is, in my opinion, far superior to this. And the other thing is, this is a love song. And there's no love songs on Brat. You've raised your hand. You said, Sky, what about Talk Talk? I know, Talk Talk is sort of a love song, but as I made the argument in my previous video, it's a question of courtly love, which is sort of unconsummated love. Consumed works as well. Unconsummated love between 2 people who exist far apart from each other and have a kind of taboo, unacted upon love. Whereas this song is sort of, let's be honest, as Lars Ulrich has taught us, and we are bold to say, it's stock. Okay, this song is stock. It is a stock 2024 female pop song because it's about being afraid of commitment, of like finally finding someone and thinking they're the one. And I got news for you. Dua Lipa did a whole album about it. Radical Optimism, the What the Hell is Wrong with the World criminally underrated album, is like mostly about that. It's interesting how there's these kind of like house style like snares that kind of get you hyped up, and I like the outro synths. And I do like the lyrics, you know. You say hello and I say goodbye. I don't know why you say hello, I say goodbye. Hi. Obviously, it's the same title as the Beatles song, Hello Goodbye. I don't think that's on purpose. Maybe it is, but it's not a bad song. It's an interesting conceit of saying I say goodbye when I should be saying hello, but it's not really up to it. And then we get the last two songs, and this is where I'm most excited. Now, I saw there was a song called Guess. If you saw my last video, you know that I'm oddly invested in fashion. I mean, listen, I'm wearing like an LL Bean plaid shirt that I bought 13 years ago, so you can tell that I'm into high fashion. But I thought this was going to be about Guess clothing, which was a really big brand, which I mostly remember because they usually had like, you know, sort of attractive models in their underwear, in their commercials, and it came out when I was a teenager, but that's not what it's about. The second that we get this sort of like hard, grimy beat and a slight orgasmic to get everything started, we understand we are in Sex Town. Now, in my last video, I asked a question, and the second that I stopped asking it, the second that I asked it, I'm like, oh, I think I know how people are going to answer. I asked, what do you call a man who's a big fan of Carly Rae Jepsen and Charli XCX and all these sort of pop and divas? And the second that I said it, I was like, everyone's just going to type in gay, right? That's what they're going to answer. So first of all, you know, maybe I'm an outlier, but I'm super duper not gay, and I super duper love Carly Rae Jepsen and Charli XCX. So I don't know what that means, except to say the audience. So the song Guess is a very, 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 very raunchy, very erotic, very successfully erotic song about her underwear and about oral sex, okay? So who is it for? You know? If Charli XCX's audience is mostly women and gay men, then like, who is this for? Because I can tell you, as a straight, I was in the gym and my knee hurts. I mentioned that in the last video. I got too excited working out to the final track on Brat, and I hurt my knee again on the elliptical, so I just had to walk around this track. And I heard this song, and the first time I heard it, like, I was bothered. You know, bothered in the sense of, like, whew. You know, it's not necessarily that it's her who's saying it, but, you know, I listen to a lot of very, very sexual songs, especially if you listen to a lot of rap and R&B like I do. I'm not a prude. You know, I've listened to a lot of very, very erotic songs before, but this song just really is very successful at being extremely erotic, not just pornographic, but erotic. Like, it has an effect on the mind, on the senses, as we might say. Like sort of interpolating Technologic by Daft Punk, try it, bite it, lick it, spit it, pull it to the side and get all in it. Where and post might remix it. It is just really far out there. And I think, why is this not in the album? Because it's not the point. Like, this is what I realized. It's not a love album, so get that Hello Goodbye out of here. And it's not a sex album, so get that Guess out of here. Still, though, I really enjoy this song. Even though, like, it legitimately has, like, I would not want to listen to this around other members of my family. And I love that the production matches that. It's apparently by some guy named The Dare, who's like, I don't know, the Terry Richardson of techno. I don't know. He's just like, Richardson? What's the guy's name? I think that's his name. The sleazy photographer. He's like kind of like a sleazy indie guy who makes this music and has this great kind of ratty, buzzy sound. Like, it really has this whole dirty, erotic feeling. And what's funny is the question that she keeps asking is, aren't you trying to guess the color of my underwear? And this is one of the things from the addendum. I told you that the addendum that I did was talking about her underwear because this was the cover of the single of the song 360. I don't know if you can tell, but we have an answer. Her underwear is pink. Like, that's actually her. I made a whole point, we'll get into this, that I think this image is very intentionally calling back to that image of Britney Spears, except here her legs are open, there her legs are closed. Here she is kind of frowning in a state of late-stage capitalistic malaise, and here she is in sort of a great consumable jailbaity, smile, Lolita weirdness, Jesus Christ, what were we doing back in the late 90s feeling? You know, I think that's a pretty intentional thing here, and it really points to the fact that we actually know. Now, why was the song taken off? Because at the end she says, you know, you want to, I bet you want to guess if I'm serious. You know, I want you guess if I'm serious about the song. This album isn't about that. This album, Brat, isn't that playful. It's not about sex. It's not about love. It's about all those other things I talked about in that hour-long video. Also, not for nothing, but like there's one other singer who like can kind of get me in this way, and that's Kim Petras. And maybe this song is just too much in the Kim Petras lane. You know, like we already have like a diva talking about sex in very graphic ways that is hard to listen to and not interact with it on some erotic level. Sorry, there's literally like 2 birds outside my window going at it. That's funny. Okay, then we get to the song Spring Breakers. I never saw the movie Spring Breakers, so I watched like half an hour of it today. I didn't understand that it was like this great movie. Holy God, I have to watch the rest of the thing. It's A24, everything. Great, angry, cool sounds, chopped up samples. And this is what's great. You know, the song definitely doesn't fit on this album. I got you. But I love it because it actually samples a Britney Spears song, which totally justifies my thesis that a lot of this album is about people like Britney Spears. What's important, though, is that it's this loud song, and then it cuts to this little quiet song, you know, every time by Britney Spears, which Charli XCX has said in interviews is her favorite song by Britney Spears. I prefer her cover of The Beat Goes On, but that's fine. And so I went and I found this scene in the movie, and we have James Franco in what is most likely his best role. Do you know what happens in the movie? Do you remember? It's these women who are in spring break and they start becoming robbers, and there's a whole robbery montage. It gets started off with James Franco playing piano, and he's got full gold teeth, and he says, this one's by a little-known pop singer by the name of Miss Britney Spears, one of the greatest singers of all time, and an angel if there ever was one on earth. And then he plays it and eventually turns into Britney Spears' version of the song while they go through and just like, you know, hold people up with shotguns and rob them and steal their money and brutalize them, right? This is what I'm talking about. These are great artists. Because even though this is like a little scrappy song you just kind of throw away, what a great way to emphasize this sort of theme of Britney Spears and the value of women who would just kind of throw away, while also engaging with the over-the-top violence and, as you kids would say, extra-ness. You kids don't say that. The extra nature of the movie and the song. And then it ends up being, I think this is why it's not on the album, it's just sort of a bitter song about not being invited to the Grammys, about not performing at the Grammys. She talks directly about going to the Staples Center, or as it's called now, don't believe in scams.net, something like that, center in LA. And like, she says the date of the Grammys, and she talks about what she would do instead of because she isn't getting, going out there to give a speech in a big pink truck. February 10th, I'm going to pull up. Hey, Staples Center, what the F is up? I'm parked outside watching all the girls strut, get their custom on, hit the worst dressed list. You better not slide, better not trip. Because I poured a lot of gasoline on the carpet, lit a cigarette, took a drag, and flicked it. The place went boom, boom, blang. And I just laughed when the bodies went splat. And then she's getting arrested and she's being taken away. And then she has a whole separate verse that mirrors that, but it's sort of like her imagining if she actually did. And she's basically pretending, I promise, I won't be a devil, I'll be a good girl. I will thank God instead of thanking nobody, and blowing up the whole thing. This is interesting because it is sort of in that context of what is the place of the artist in society, and what is the relationship between acceptance and denial in society. But it doesn't really fit in the album, because once again, it's really tongue-in-cheek. It's really insincere. I think a lot like Guess, she's in this mode of like, do I mean what I'm saying? And think about the entire album, Brat. Is there a single moment where she's saying, "Did I mean that? Am I saying what I think?" Check the scoreboard. As far as I can tell, there's nothing like that. All right. So there's my little bonus video. Okay? Let's see. What will I call this video? Brat analysis, and it's not the same because it's just about the 3 songs. Okay? That's what I'll end up calling it. All right. Well, until next time, listen to the Beth Gibbons. Watch my Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared tier list. And dance. There's Kim.